Hello friends, I'm Dr. Kaustubh Bondre. We are here to discuss the key takeaways and important points from today's editorials from newspaper The Hindu. Before moving forward, I would like to request you to subscribe to this channel, like, share and review this video when you are done watching it. Let us look at the first important issue today. It is about the recent proposal by Finance Ministry for the formation of committee to assess the idea of special asset reconstruction companies or asset management companies to take over bad loans from the banks. Let me take you back in time, brief history. During the period of 2000 till 2010, what was happening is in the initial part of that decade, there was double digit growth. Right? The economy was growing after 2005 specifically. The economy was growing very fast. Because of this, the companies or corporates sensed better opportunities in future. So they started taking loans from the banks and they started investing a lot into infrastructure. The banks, sensing the same sentiment positive about the future growth of the economy, started taking more risk. So they started lending for projects they may not be viable in future. So everyone was betting on what the future turns out to be very prosperous and the economy continues to grow in the double digits. What happened is after the global financial crisis, the problem started emerging because the companies and the banks started looking at not double digit growth but half of those numbers. Because of this, the companies, it found it very difficult to repay what they had taken. Second, their financial cost also increased because the RBI had already raised the interest rates to take care of the rising inflation and the problems associated. So companies found it very costly financially to repay back the loan. Third, because of the global financial crisis, the external economy was in bad shape. So what happened is the foreign currency that or foreign loans that had been bought by the corporates, they had to be repaid back. And now because of the depreciation of rupee, the repay of foreign loans became very costly. Next point was the you are aware of the term policy paralysis. So in the later part of the decade, what happened is getting land clearances, environmental clearances became a very time consuming and costly process. So because of all these reasons, what happened is the companies did not realize the gains they were supposed to make by putting in that much investment that had borrowed from the banks. So they were unable to repay it back. Banks were in red, companies became in their balance sheet became red. So this is called the NPA issue or twin balance sheet syndrome of the Indian economy. Now, having said this, from that time onwards, the government is trying to solve this problem of bad loans or the non-performing assets, NPAs in the banks. So this is called, it is mentioned here, festering twin balance sheet problem. So the origin of this issue has been described. Now, in 2016 nearly, the chief economic advisor at that time had given a proposal for PARA. This is Public Sector Asset Rehabilitation Agency. So the point is, for resolution of that these non-performing assets, what does the government or RBI do? Presently, we encourage the formation of new asset reconstruction companies. Then government has to capitalize the banks, take care of the bad loans. But all this is very problematic. Even after construction of or establishment of this asset reconstruction companies, till now nothing has. I mean, things have not moved very fast. The reason is many commercial decisions. If you really want to take care of bad loans, you need to take commercial principles into consideration and not political. Second, there is fear about investigation agencies. Now you write off a big loan and then the issue of corruption rises up. So you can be haunted by CAG, you can be haunted by CVC, you can be haunted by government agencies. Third, all this money, the capital that is required, if government is to fund it, from where does this capital come? So because of all these issues, what happened is the problem was not completely solved. The compounding issue in this entire scene was the governance of public sector banks. What we have in India is most of the banking sector is in hands of government or under government. This is called public sector banks. So the governance of public sector banks is also very problematic because these loans which were given, majority of them were given under political nudge. So the point is, if you really want to solve this problem, piecemeal reforms will not take care of this problem. We need to go for the reforms in banking sector. We can look at the issue of creating large banks. The government had given such a proposal, and the recent proposal of PARA or this asset reconstruction company is a positive proposal in a sense that you create a centralized agency which functions on commercial principles and not political ones. Second, this agency takes up the most complicated or difficult cases and then solves it. This is easier said than done. There are certain challenges in implementation. These challenges have been highlighted here, that there will be challenges on the ownership structure of this, then the issue of finance or capital, then different tools have to be used for uh, solving this issue, and then the scrutiny of CAG and CVC will anyway be invited by these large write-offs of the loans. Also, Prevention of Corruption Act, we have to see that we need to shield the bankers and officers from this investigation under this act if they have to take certain bold decisions to write off certain loans. So we need to take a hard look at the insolvency and bankruptcy code, right? So this is about the NPA issue. We move to the next issue after this. The next article, it raises the questions on the ceasefire thing, right, in Afghanistan. So basically, again, I'll take you back. What happened is, after 2001, when Afghanistan was invaded by US forces or NATO forces led by US, the government of Taliban was dislodged, and then Hamid Karzai and number of leaders came up in Afghanistan after that. However, US has not been able to win this war. One. Second, Taliban has gaining ground. I mean, Taliban was buying time, so they lay low when US was strong, and they kept up their presence in the rural Afghanistan, mountainous Afghanistan, and inaccessible Afghanistan. So the government that the US reinstated or helped to reinstate in Afghanistan controls only urban areas. Their reach or control in the rural area and their effort to contain Taliban has been not, it has failed, or it has not borne much hope. So what we have now is, there is a ceasefire. The president of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani, has declared during Eid this unconditional ceasefire. Taliban has also responded somehow, and there have been number of attempts where Taliban, US, and even the Afghan government have tried to establish dialogue so that the peace can be established into Afghanistan. However, we should understand that Taliban has support from Pakistan, who considers Taliban as its proxy governance in Afghanistan. Second, Afghanistan is considered by Pakistan as its strategic backyard. So unstable Afghanistan is in the interest of Pakistan. Next, Pakistan is helped in this process by China. So overall, what we need is regional countries, especially through platforms like SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, need to take care a regional stand where whatever is in the interest of Afghanistan, the decision should be taken. Taliban, especially we cannot group the terrorists as good and bad. So Taliban needs to be controlled, needs to be kept away from power. But yes, dialogue needs to be reinstated, and then all the decisions that are taken regarding Afghanistan, everything should be done keeping the long-term interest of Afghan people in center. So that is what the stand of India is, that the process of restabilization of Afghanistan should be in the interest of Afghani people. It should be led by Afghani people, and it should be owned by Afghani people. So this is what the stand of India is. This issue also speaks about the engagement between the dialogue. The problem is, there are very hard positions taken. Taliban insists that foreign troops should be withdrawn, and the Afghan government wants Taliban to accept the constitution of Afghanistan. So these are very difficult positions which in the short term may not be met. So after this, we move to the next article that is important. Again, it's about economy. Here, the writer Aarti Krishnan raises certain issues about the functioning or the way MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee, takes its decisions. Will not go into the article in detail. I mean, this article is a bit technical. What we need to understand is, earlier, the interest rates decisions were taken by RBI. RBI used to have number of parameters or variables that RBI used to take into consideration. On the basis of all this information and data, RBI used to take a very balanced stand whether to increase rates or not. In this case, what used to be the result? All the players in the economy who are dependent on that rate, it may be banks, it may be financial institutions, it may be the stock markets, it may be the corporates or market, they all depend on the decision regarding the interest rates. So earlier, RBI, because it relied on a number of variables, it kept everyone guessing. So entire market could be controlled, or the state of economy, all the players, their behavior could be controlled by RBI through the policy rates. Because of MPC, what has happened is, MPC single-mindedly focus on inflation targeting. So 4 to 6, that is the mandate. So or rather 4 plus minus 2, that is the mandate of MPC. So if single-mindedly MPC is pursuing inflation targeting, what it results into is that other variables are not taken care of, one, and second, MPC depends on CPI, because if inflation targeting is the crucial point, the focus on consumer price index is natural. So what other players can do is they can also focus on the consumer price index, and they can understand beforehand, even before MPC, that what MPC is going to do. So this is the reason why presently, when MPC has increased the interest rates, the market did not react much, because market was already expecting that increase in the interest rates. So that is the point where the author tries to agree that MPC should broad based their right. MPC to decide on interest rate is not a very welcome development. So other players are, MPC is losing a grip on the market. Other players can preempt MPC, and what we need is, we need a broad approach to collection of data, where we can diversify the focus of the monetary policy committee, right? So this is about this article. Just go through the functioning of MPC, its composition, and the contribution in economy. Next, open data, open government. This is an article which tries to argue that government should use more and more data. First, government should collect data properly, use that data, and make that data open, available, so that it can foster innovation and make effective solutions for people's problems. I'll just give you an information, basic understanding. See here, when artificial intelligence is coupled with open data, a real paradigm shift begins. Secondly, datafication of businesses. Now here the markings have gone a bit one line below. Just note that datafication of businesses is the keyword. Next, it is general data protection regulation that has been in news. It is about European Union. So we also in India need a law to govern the collection, management, storage, and privacy related concerns of data. Next, the author argues that over 100 governments have already signed a charter to proactively share data collected by various government departments for public consumption. So this collaboration is very crucial for innovations. Open government data means what? That has been explained here. Next, he has raised certain points, right? Such data collection by governments are for citizen welfare. So that is the crucial point, that whatever data is available with the government through Aadhaar, through ISRO, through various government departments. So all this data is basically for what? Government is for social welfare or people's welfare. So this data should be open and accessible. Second, they have raised that data sets such as government budget usage, everything, right? It increases transparency and thereby build trust. So when data comes from the government, it becomes very authentic. Third, the most important, it paves the way to develop technology-led innovations which can unlock massive economic value. So poorest of the poor, the Gandhiji's talisman, if we remember, the poorest of the poor can benefit because of the use of this data. So here certain examples are given. So what kind of data is available? Availability of data on yearly produce of crops, soil data, meteorological data. So all this can be used. Public hospital, health data of the people. Case studies are mentioned. Before that, there has been a study by PricewaterhouseCoopers in Australia. It said that open data can add an additional 1.5% to the country's GDP. So Indian context also, this can be a huge benefit. Now there is a case study, transport for London. This marking has to be here, transport for London. So they have shared data and helped develop proper public system for transportation. Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has made some laudable efforts. They are also mentioned here, right? There is a rating agency, Global Open Data Barometer. So we need to keep in mind the India's position with respect to this rating. Next, here India publishes data points. Very little of it is getting utilized by data consumers, scientists, and corporates. Now, presently, India does collect data, store data, and share data. But the problem is that data is not comprehensive. That data is not in a form that can be used directly. That is why its utilization by all these other players in the economy is less. Next, 5-point framework is mentioned. We don't have to follow the terminology that is given by the writer. But however, the recommendations can be noted down. So first step is to ensure completeness of data stacks open for use. So rather than patchwork or piecemeal, government needs to come up with a comprehensive data regarding various issues or subjects. So comprehensiveness of data is a very important point. Next, it is related to currently data sets shared in India are somewhat disjoint and not comprehensive. Then clustering of relevant data sets and APIs would be the next step. This would mean combining data sets. So when you combine relevant data, that data, for example, you get data on soil health card, you did data from meteorological department. All this data can be used, or even biological data that can be used for better crop protection. So that is the meaning here, clustering of data. Next, it is also about building an anchor cases or use cases to encourage data use. A case in point is Aadhaar identity data, which has been exponential growth. So you have to demonstrate success to the people, and then the use of data will become more constructive and innovations will follow. Final step would be setting up a comprehensive governance framework which includes open data council. So this is like the GDPR that we saw here, right? European Union's general data protection regulation. So we need something in India also which will be a comprehensive governance framework for the use of data. So this is about this article. Next, it is about, let me make clear, this is a political article. It is written by Kapil Sibal. Draw the line for speakers and governance. So we know recently there have been number of cases where the institutions like speaker and governor have invited controversy. Now, not going into the politics of it, what we understand is, for examination point of view, we need to prepare the constitutional articles related to these two posts, their functions, their discretion, the controversies associated, and especially in light of issues like the 10th schedule, the Anti-Defection Act, as we call it. So certain points that are raised here by this author are highlighted. Rest of the article is all about case studies. So Tamil Nadu, then what happened there is mentioned here. It is Andhra Pradesh, it is Telangana, it is Uttarakhand, it is Manipur, Goa, Manipur and Meghalaya. So Arunachal Pradesh. So everywhere we saw the controversy because of the discretion being used or rather abused by constitutional position of governor or speaker. So guidelines are required. The author suggests that constitution needs to be amended to take care of this discretion, and guidelines have to be brought in to regulate the functioning of governor and speaker. However, at the end of the day, I would like to highlight that it is basically all the political parties have to sit together, and it has to be a political decision on not using or misusing, abusing the position, constitutional positions. However, we realize that this is easier said than done. It's a difficult bullet to bite for the political parties, because then it's like you did it in the past, so I'll do it again. So this attitude or mentality is not going to function. Next, this is the last article that we discussed today. It is about North Korea and US. Now, we know that the summit is going to be held tomorrow, June 12 Singapore summit. So when such article appear about a forthcoming summit, you don't have to treat this article as too important. You just have to pick up anything that can be used in the answers. This news per se is not very important, because anyway, when the summit is held tomorrow, all the information is going to be in the newspaper about the summit tomorrow again, and that will be better and more authentic than what we read today. So in this light, just the points here are the June 12 Singapore summit. Second, denuclearization as an agenda. Next, it is about the Libya model, where Muammar Gaddafi agreed to denuclearize, and then finally he was killed by NATO or US forces. Then it is about Washington's willingness to exert maximum pressure, unwillingness, sorry. So somehow there has been a stance of accommodation that is coming from America. Trump's assurance not to impose further sanctions. So these are certain assurances which created a conducive ground for diplomacy to function. And anyway, I believe that the model set up by Barack Obama, where he agreed to speak with Hussein Rouhani, the leader of Iran, though the two countries were arch rivals or enemies. So that diplomacy, there is no alternative to dialogue. Military cannot give you permanent solution. So here, ceasefire, missile launches, role of China and Russia has been highlighted. Ultimately, it is about dialogue. Tangible result will be coming up tomorrow, and let us see what happens to the Korean crisis. The war, unofficially, the war still continues. Korea is still divided into North and South. So it is 1950-53 war. So let us see how it emerges tomorrow. So this is all from my side today, and have a very nice day. Happy studying. Thank you.